Good morning. Good morning. Well, let me know if you guys can hear me, and we'll get started. Had a very active day across central and southern parts of Michigan, but we have a small area of southeast Michigan and a secondary area of interest for this afternoon. Good morning, guys. So far, we've heard the NWS is going to survey at least 2 areas for today. But for today's severe threat, we actually do have a risk in southeast Michigan. The SPC does not highlight the southeast portion in any severe risk, but we're giving you the heads up. If you are in Metro Detroit area, you are in a risk today. So Lenawee County, Monroe County, Washtenaw County, Wayne County, Oakland, Livingston, Macomb counties, you guys are in a severe threat. Now, this is a model we're going to look at very quickly, very quick overview. This shouldn't be a very long live stream, but very quickly, this is the model of the NAM3. The NAM3 did a great job yesterday at depicting where storms could fire. So basing our model and our forecast heavily on the NAM3, we do have showers and storms developing over in western Michigan. As you can see, that happens on this model. Those should not be severe currently over in West Michigan. We do have some storms ongoing, but by peak heating between noon and 4 o'clock, we'll see this line blow up over Hillsdale and Lenawee County here, and it'll extend into the Metro Detroit area, and then it moves into Ohio. So very quick shot of potential severe weather today. Lenawee, Monroe, Washtenaw, Wayne counties, maybe as far north as Macomb, Livingston, and Oakland counties. The ingredients today do support very strong wind gusts as well as some hail being possible. We do have a lot. I'm going to stress that we have a lot of instability still left in the atmosphere from yesterday's storms. If we go ahead and see here, we have 2,000 to 3,000 surface CAPE, which is more than sufficient to produce not only damaging wind gusts, but also large hail. Now, the threat again centered between noon and 4, and that is going to be only for the very far southeast portion of Michigan. Hillsdale County, you would be on the edge of this. Potentially, yes. Lenawee and Monroe County, higher risk for you guys. But if you are anywhere else in the state, just going to be some thunderstorms. If we go ahead and switch over to the radar, I'll go ahead and show you the live radar here. We can take a peek at what's going on around the state. So we stop that screen and we present the radar. We'll get a look at what's going on live. So here in southwest Michigan, we do have these storms that are pushing into Indiana, but also up in Grand Rapids, we do have some more storms that have developed in along 94 here over to Jackson, although these are running into drier air, so they're going to die. There's really not much instability just yet. It's riding the nose of the better instability. When we get to the noon time frame, we'll have a little bit better dynamics, but right now, this is your current radar over toward the Grand Rapids area. And again, all the way up through Flint, Owasso, Ionia, Grand Rapids, that'll continue to work its way east-southeast. But again, if that model, the NAM3, is hinting at what it is hinting at, we will have a severe threat in very far southeast Michigan this afternoon, right around noon to 4 o'clock. Any questions, guys? It's going to be a very quick live stream here. I didn't expect it to be very long here, but I have some questions here. Yeah, Alexis, Hillsdale is going to be right on that borderline if they're going to get it or not. Although there is storms forming off to your west currently. No severe weather currently expected, but we get closer to the 12 o'clock into, say, the 2, 3, 4 o'clock time frame. That's when you got to be kind of like more aware of any potential severe weather. Again, so it's a low risk today, but the model is really kind of hinting at these storms firing back up, and it does show some very favorable dynamics for some damaging winds. Jacob, timing for Detroit maybe right around the, again, noon to 4 o'clock time frame. And again, this is going to be very small, very sporadic, very isolated in nature, so it could be tied to the very southern counties, so Lenawee, Monroe, Hillsdale, but it could be as far north as Oakland, Livingston, and Macomb counties. Yeah, Dawn, enjoy the cool breeze. Haven't been outside this morning, but I thought it was humid. It should be pretty humid out there. Surely cold water should be out of that threat this afternoon, but pay attention to any of these storms off to your west now. If you look at this line here, it's really showing signs of strengthening as it moves into Indiana, but the good news is it's diving south. So this should miss cold water altogether. And also, if you see this little feature here from Reading all the way over to South Bend area, this is an outflow boundary. I know we had some pictures coming to the page this morning of a huge shelf/roll cloud off that outflow boundary. It's harmless, although you do have some storms that are off to your west. But if you are near Sturgis, Constantine, or Fremont, or in the northern Indiana area, this is going to have a gorgeous shelf cloud on it on this outflow boundary here. But overall, the severe risk right now is low. If anything, these is just some small hail. But again, the severe risk for southeast Michigan, especially Lenawee, Monroe, Washtenaw, Wayne counties, and maybe even Hillsdale, all the way up towards the Livingston, Oakland, Macomb County area, you may have a threat this afternoon. So yeah, Wauseon would be in the threat for later, Alexis. But as soon as this line goes through between noon and 4, you should be in the clear because the cold front comes through and it brings in a stable air mass. So as soon as that line comes through this afternoon, all good. Why do so many storms follow the 96 and 94 corridors? Well, basically, that's where the highest instability usually sets up. The further north you go, the less instability usually there is. Not always, but most of the time when you get those stress in southern and central Michigan, that's usually what happens. Yes, Kyle, back-to-back severe days possible, although this stretch should be pretty limited to the very far southeast corner of the state. So not a widespread threat like we saw yesterday across most of central and southern Michigan. Hey, Brittany, after the line goes through this afternoon, you should be good for boating. So after, I say, 3-4 o'clock, you should be in the clear for doing some boating. Jackson County, you guys are probably outside the threat, just to the west of the threat. Although I'm not going to rule out a storm popping up over you. I think it's just more likely off to your east and south. They may start to develop over you, but really mature when they get into the Lenawee and Washtenaw County areas. Howell, you guys would be probably a little bit too far north, but again, stay aware. If it does extend north, you guys would be in that threat. But I think it's going to be highest to your south. Honestly, Renzo, I am too. Surprised that we did not get a watch last night. I am honestly surprised too. If you look at the broad spectrum of things, though, the damaging wind threat seemed to be pretty subdued. I didn't see many reports of damage across the state from these storms. It was mainly just a hail and a few tornadoes happened. So luckily, we didn't have any widespread severe weather. Yes, Justin, the upper level ridge, we're about to be heating up. So, yeah, guys, for the future reference into the next couple of weeks, it'll get hot and we're probably going to see a lot of storm systems. So, be aware for severe weather. Wixom, you guys are a little bit too far north for my liking, although it is possible. I think the highest severe threat is going to be very tied to the very far southeast corner. So, Lenawee, Monroe, Washtenaw, Wayne counties. I'm not going to rule out stuff in Hillsdale, Jackson, Livingston, Oakland, Macomb, but I think the threat is going to be centered around the bottom 4 counties: Lenawee, Monroe, Washtenaw, and Wayne. Did I say Western? I meant Eastern. Sorry, Kyle. Edwardsburg status for the next hour. Rain. Here's Edwardsburg. Here's your rain. After this first line, we do have more stuff developing out to the west. So Might be a pretty busy day for rain on the west side, but severe weather should be pretty subdued. If any of these storms up here do go severe, it's going to be for hail. This is not a wind or tornado threat up here. The wind threat and tornado, or the tornado threat today is very low. I'll go ahead and point that out. This is going to be a wind and hail threat today. We need wind shear that turns clockwise with height, but right now it's all going one direction. So it's indicative of straight line winds, not tornadic winds. So tornadoes are really not a concern today. Yeah, cold water, potentially. Just some rain for cold water. This fills in to get some storms. But again, the main area we're going to watch is going to be over here in southeast Michigan, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Monroe, Adrian, those areas. I'm surprised nobody was injured in Perry with the tornado taking out the city's siren. Yeah, we heard about that. Luckily, it would seem to be a pretty weak tornado, EF0, EF1. We're going to wait for the NWS in Detroit to survey and rate it. But for right now, from what we're seeing, it looks pretty minimal, luckily. There's only some very minor structural damage and also some tree damage. So luckily, it wasn't too big of a tornado. But again, all tornadoes are damaging and all tornadoes are dangerous. So we just got lucky in Perry last night. Yeah, Jacob. So for tornadoes, like I said, you want that wind shear. Winds at the surface out of the south or southeast, but when you go up in the atmosphere, you want it to turn with height, like a clockwise motion. That gets rotating updrafts happening, but today we don't have that wind shear. We call it directional shear. We don't have that. We have shear, but it's speed shear, which means it's going faster as you go higher, but it's also going one direction. So it will help storms produce damaging winds instead of tornadoes. So rotating updrafts, or also known as supercells, really isn't a concern today. That concern is going to be further south and further east into central Ohio and even eastern Ohio toward Pennsylvania. That's where that risk is going to be today. We're just going to have a wind and hail threat. Niles, cold water, you should be going to clear just some rain showers for you guys, but Niles down here, you guys do have that storm on top of you, and that should clear out within the next hour or so. These storms are moving at about, see if I can get a storm track on here real quick. And of course, I don't have a storm track. Go ahead and animate this though. It looks like we're going at about, each scan is 5 minutes. Fairly slow. So I'd say next half hour to an hour, Niles, you should be clear. I'm sorry if you guys can hear that noise. I have a bunch of cars stopped outside my house. I think there's a train that went through or something. Not sure what's going on. If you guys can hear that, I apologize. Montgomery, you're going to be in the clear today. No severe weather for you, just some rain maybe. All right, guys, if that's all the questions that I have that I see, I'll go ahead and hop off here. Can't promise. I mean, I'm not gonna know streaming if we're gonna be streaming yet, but I'll be more than likely chasing in Southeast Michigan. So if I see anything, I'll go live. I'm not sure what our guys' schedule is today. I know some of the guys are working, so I'm not sure we're going to have a stream host if necessary. But we shouldn't need to be live for very long just because the threat is very short-lived and very confined to the southeast part of the state. So again, wind and hail threat this afternoon in the very far southeast corner of Michigan. So Lenawee, Monroe counties, Washtenaw counties, Wayne counties. It might brush Hillsdale. It might brush Jackson. It might brush Oakland, Livingston, Macomb counties. But the threat should be centered pretty much to Lenawee, Monroe, Washtenaw, and Wayne counties. And again, wind and hail are the only concerns today. Tornadoes really don't concern me. just given the lack of the overall directional wind shear that we have. So overall, it's going to be a very quick, short-lived threat, but it is there, and we want to bring it to your attention just in case we do have these storms that fire up and go severe. So any more questions here? White pigeon, you guys are not in a severe threat. Sandusky, yeah, Sandusky, Joe, be aware there at, I know where you're at there. Be prepared this afternoon, starting about noon, for some storms moving in your way. All right. All right, guys, I'll be out chasing more than likely, so if I get anything, I'll be live. Otherwise, expect our warnings to be posted to the page, and that's all I got for you guys. So have a good day, everybody. Thanks for watching.